Hey guys, Holistic Hilda here. I bring you experts, experiences, and epic adventures to boost your health. I'm a certified integrative nutrition health coach, a certified fitness professional, and the host and producer of the Wise Traditions podcast. Today I bring you something really unique. It is a panel that I hosted of wellness experts. I hosted this panel at the Points Retreat in Minnesota last February, and it includes basically people who are at the top of their game, who have secrets to offer you. They share their own struggles and weaknesses. I was just impressed with how vulnerable and real they were in this conversation and how many actionable takeaways I could take to apply to my own life for good health. So check it out. It's Nic Zahasky, who is a chef and fitness professional, Thaddeus Owen from Thaddeus Tomorrow, Heidi Sime from Thaddeus Tomorrow as well, Christa Rymal from the Point Retreats, and Todd Shipman, who is an amazing biohacker and health coach. So I respect each and every one of these individuals. I think you're going to love this conversation. Check it out. So you guys, hasn't this been a fantastic retreat at the Point Retreats? It's been amazing. So somebody was asking me about this live podcast. This is a podcast in front of a live audience. So this is not going out to people right now, but we will definitely share it later in some way, shape, or form. And so I feel like we've had some amazing conversations amongst ourselves. And this is just going to be like one big conversation where we can all learn more about the leaders on this retreat. Let's give them a hand, by the way. I'll tell you briefly who I am. I'm Holistic Hilda. I am a health coach and a podcast coach. I am the host and producer of the Wise Traditions podcast and Tradiciones Sabias, which is our Spanish version, which is so much fun. And it's just been my privilege to be on this journey with you this weekend in particular. And I hope it's just the beginning of some wonderful friendships and connections. So I'm going to have everybody go down the line and introduce themselves. Just say who you are and what your specialty is. And then we'll get into some of the questions that I've prepared that I hope will reflect what's on your mind as well. We'll start with Nic.
Nic Zahasky, and my specialty is being human. Well, wait. It's actually, I would say, culinary arts.
The master of culinary arts.
Yeah.
He is a phenom. I am Thaddeus Owen, so I am the co-founder of Primalhacker, primalhacker.com, and we teach ancestral health and wisdom in a modern environment and how to overcome your indoor modern lifestyle.
And I am Todd Shipman. I think I best label myself as a functional wellness consultant. So my main focus really is just taking everything and simplifying it so that the average Joe can understand what we're doing.
Hello, I'm Heidi Sime, and I am the creative arts director here at The Point. That's my new title. I just made that up. I'm a creative.
You're totally hired.
No, so I teach meditative arts and spirituality here at The Point.
Love it.
I'm Christa Rymal. I am the owner and founder of the Point Retreats, and I have a background in conventional medicine, but I look at myself as one of the few platforms that exists where we take the whole spectrum of health and wellness and disease prevention, from biohacking to functional medicine, lifestyle medicine to conventional medicine, and put it in a space where everyone belongs.
Okay, so my first question, not every single person has to answer every question, by the way, but my first question is, what was your aha moment? What moved you into this health and wellness space? I'll just come down here.
So some people have heard mine, but I spent a decade developing pharmaceutical products. And I was working for one of the world's largest and very much unknown pharmaceutical companies in the world in Michigan. So the largest maker of over-the-counter medicines. And I was making a children's medicine, so a medicine to help children heal. And I was standing at the top of this 10,000-gallon batch, pouring a fiber-packed 55-gallon drum with skull and crossbones labeled poison. I had to wear full respiratory protection to not get any of that drug into my system because it was so toxic. And that was just the thickener that we were putting into the children's product, not to mention the high fructose corn syrup, the red dyes and colorants. And that was my breaking point. So I got out of the pharmaceutical industry after that and did a deeper and deeper dive, getting a master's in holistic nutrition, studying the Weston A. Price Foundation, which took me off into the biohacking realm shortly thereafter. So that was my breaking point and my life transition, where I finally had enough of a decade of developing these products that are made to heal us, and yet they're making us sicker while we take them.
My aha moment was very simple, but I lived such an unhealthy life based off of Kool-Aid and cheese and Skittles and Taco Bell every day, while being a very competitive ultra runner, and just changing my diet and seeing that everything about myself changed. Just the connection of what I ate really had so much power over the rest of my day and how I was going to feel. So that was a major aha moment for knowing that I need to take a different path. And then for biohacking, it came when I just finished a 100-mile run, and there was this cryotherapy company at the finish line that blasted my calves and my hamstrings, and I could walk the next day, and it was just mind-blowing, and then it was just a rabbit hole after that.
So my aha moment, sorry, I'm just going to set this down, was really when I had anxiety so bad that I could not even drink a cup of coffee. I couldn't drink a glass of wine. I couldn't really eat the foods that I even wanted to eat. It was really detrimental to my health, and I realized that at some point I have to get out of the situation. So for me, it was not necessarily more of the food, but it was a situation that I was in, and I knew I needed to exit that situation because of the anxiety. And as soon as I did that, I followed more of a personal development and a personal spiritual healing path. And so for me, it was really more of figuring out interior, and then that led to more of the biohacking exterior things like food and light environment.
I have a lot of personal reasons, but I'm going to focus on my professional reasons. So as a nurse, I really became sick and tired of helping people just become a little less sick and tired. And I really, truly wanted to help people be healthy and well. And I was fortunate enough to be in a position where, as Director of Endocrinology and Diabetes Care for a large healthcare system, when I accepted the position, I was very forthright and said, I want to do things really different. We are managing a disease that is primarily caused or certainly becomes far worse based on lifestyle. And if I can help promote lifestyle as part of our algorithm, as part of our pathway of care, then I will accept this position. Unfortunately, I was in a healthcare system that embraced that. And so we really drove a lot of change around not just pharmacology algorithms, but around lifestyle algorithms, and implemented whole new programs. And watching those fill up so quickly, all of our culinary education classes, all of our coaching programs, we had waiting lists where we had historically been having such a difficult time filling anything that we tried to implement or do. So my turning point was really seeing that this is what people, just humans, are hungry for, and trying to really honor that and give people opportunities to learn through lifestyle how they can really be their best selves.
So a couple of you in your answers mentioned change. Obviously, you have an aha moment and something changes. I want to know, and I think a lot of us want to know, what changes were scary for you, and how did you actually implement them? In other words, was there some protocol that you're like, I know I should do this, but I'm afraid to, or it's hard to? How did you overcome that hurdle, and what was the thing you were trying to hurdle?
Well, for me, I'm such an extremist that it's not much of the change, but when it comes to scary things that I've done, I would say, and this may not be the right path you want to go, but would maybe be something like a coffee enema for a protocol of liver flush, and just the idea of the first time ever doing an enema can be very scary and uncomfortable. And maybe even a parasite protocol where you would take turpentine, and the results on that, it will scare the heck out of anyone. Enough to, when you see what is coming out of your body, it's a horror film, and you've got to continue, but that's scary because you want to get it out. But honestly, seeing the results is almost more scary because you know what's in your body.
So last January, I did my first cold plunge, and it was in Cedar Lake in Minneapolis, and I was absolutely terrified. I had no idea what to expect, and I was like, oh my God, like, what did I just sign up for? Are you kidding? I'm going to go jump in a lake in the middle of January in Minneapolis. And met some, super cool people that helped me through it. But I literally just jumped in and jumped out as fast as I could because I was mortified of what was going to happen to my body, right? You don't know when you've never done it before. It's pretty crazy, but get used to it. It's better. Yeah, good.
I recently completed my first 5-day fast, which was a big challenge for me. And interestingly enough, probably I'll kind of go between my personal challenge and professional challenge. And I walk a really fine line that I is really unique in that I'm trying to break down the silos that exist in health and wellness. And so for me, I know that I have a unique platform where I've been in conventional medicine long enough that I have a lot of trust in my colleagues there. And then I have great colleagues like Thaddeus in the biohacking space. And so for me, it's just really a challenge to try and walk that line where I know that I continue to have the trust of all of the different spaces that exist within the health and wellness industry. So even for me, when I did the 5-day fast, I had all of my conventional medicine colleagues texting me going, what are you doing? Your new profession has way too many job hazards, jump ship. And I just had to kind of say, you know what? It's okay. I've researched it. I know what I'm doing. Here's the science behind it. And just be really intentional about each step that I make because I know I'm being watched from a lot of different platforms. That's a challenge. But personally, for me, the 5-day fast was a challenge because it was something new. And I've certainly done a lot of intermittent fasting, but the 5 days was a journey. I will tell you that. I Instagrammed about it a lot. I think that was my therapy through it. But it was a great challenge. I'm glad that I did it, but a challenge nonetheless.
So I've done everything from physical. I've applied and tested, and I was never afraid to do that. Whether it be a drug or an experience with putting my body through a test. And I think the biggest thing right now that has been the hardest for me is, as an individual that's in the culinary field, you've seen so many individuals lately that have taken their own life from depression and anxiety. And I grew up in a small town in West Texas, and trauma to your brain through football is a huge thing that a lot of people don't talk about enough, and it's a curse for the rest of your life if you don't address it. And so the biggest thing, I think that the scariest hack for me in the last 2 years is addressing my anxiety, my depression, my fear, and my own personal inside. I think I was torn up when I heard about Anthony Bourdain. I mean, my wife saw me cry, and because in this industry, we do this, we put our hearts on the line, and it's because you feed us through energy, right? We're not our own governors, in a sense. It's not our own energy. You make me feel so different, more than I can do for myself. And so when someone like him is in the prime of his life, per se, and then takes his own life, it makes me really think. All the things that I've done, what have I gained? I've gained a lot of physical things, but I haven't gained that one thing that I'm really looking for, and it's an emotional freedom. And so I think that in the last 2 years, that's been the biggest biohack for me, is looking introspectively. And it's ravaged my personal life, but I think it's also been a great gift, and hopefully, wherever I come out on the other end, it'll be a beautiful thing. But I think that's a biohack worth being fearful over.
Well, thank you for being so vulnerable and honest. And I'm going to ask you guys to actually be a little bit more honest even now and ask you, this is actually just because I'm curious too, what secret health hack do you do that maybe not many people know about that you really feel like helps you live your best life? And it might be something you just mentioned, or it may be something else.
So I'll start out with the one that's obviously no secret, which is morning sunlight. And if you have ever seen me anywhere on anything, I'm telling you to get outside in the morning at sunrise. So that's no secret. But I would say, so my secret that I have been working with myself on is very similar to what Chef Nic had talked about, and that's this inner emotional game. And that was my most fearful thing to face, was myself and my anxiety and social anxiety. And that's my secret health hack, is when I can get myself right with me in my head internally, that's when I feel my best, I show up my best, and I can show up for all of you. And until I do that, none of the other things that I do as these outside technologies or tools really have the effect that I'm looking for or want, until I am good with who I am. And that was the biggest thing I learned through my entire food, health, and fitness journey, was being okay with who I am and being able to show up for all of you because I'm comfortable with myself. And that took me until I was almost 40 before I could do that. So that's...
If I could ask, and how do you do that, Thaddeus? Like, what do you do that helps you be your authentic self?
Well, the first thing I had to do was face who I was and why I was so scared of talking to people or giving a presentation. I never gave a presentation in my life until I was almost 40 because I couldn't. And what I had to learn was, instead of forcing these emotions down and pushing them away, when I felt anxiety, I wanted to run away and get away from it and push it away from me. And the secret is to accept that as part of you and welcome it and allow it to flow through your body as just energy, and allowing that energy to then flow out and find an exit, versus staying clamped down and bubbling up when I don't want it. It's okay for it to be there because everything changes and everything is impermanent, and just allowing you to feel that sensation, the physical sensations of that in the moment, and just allowing it to then make its progression, whether it's a minute, an hour, or a day, for it to leave my body and then be back to where I want to be. And it's okay that we're not always perfect. So that was the secret health hack.
That was amazing, by the way. For me, I would say I'm going to go back to breath and the focus and the importance of breath. And as I mentioned yesterday and the day before, that the breath is the remote to the brain. The way we breathe sends so many signals to our body, and people don't understand, if your mouth breathing, what that sends and what reaction chemistry-wise that does to your body. And having I think if I could just tell someone to do so much to change, would be to just nasal breathe. Breathe in and out of your nose as much as possible. If you're not talking or eating, your mouth should be shut, unless there's definitely different activities of sports and stuff. No, I mean of sports. But I mean, to really change, to really have control over your body, your HRV, and your mindset and your calmness, it's all through your breath. And I don't think, and this is my experience, but I don't think enough people even think or give a second thought about how their breath is in that moment. Breathing just through your nose while you sleep, how much of a better sleep you'll get by just, kind of taping your mouth and only breathing through your nose. And, I could be wrong on that, but I don't think enough people even, again, give a second thought about how they're breathing in the moment. And it takes a lot of practice to almost set an alarm every 5 minutes to see, is your mouth open or not? But again, you can have a lot of control of your body just by the way you breathe.
So now you have to do the Wim Hof. Then breathe out.
Fully in, out.
Thank you.
That'll be our meditation.
You
at
guys
night.
missed that yesterday. So my secret health hack would be, I think, meditating in the morning. I actually sit in that sauna space contraption, and sometimes I listen to a guided meditation, and sometimes I just sit in stillness. And I find that sitting in stillness is leaps and bounds beyond anything that I'm guided from. And the that spark that I was talking about during our art class, that spark of ideas, that spark of, illumination, that comes to me so many times, and I'll forget that. I'll be like, oh yeah, I need to go sit by myself, even like in the afternoon. It doesn't matter if it's morning or afternoon or whatever. But the other thing that we do that's really important to like our family is to reconnect to nature. And we take our children out to nature as much as we possibly can. These days, they're so connected to those cell phones, and I talk to teenagers and middle schoolers about cell phone safety, but getting the kids outdoors, hiking in the winter, doesn't matter how cold it is, like whatever, you got to get them outside. Our kids build forts outside, like we're always into like playing. We got to play more, and that's what I teach in creative arts. Like we should all be playing more, right? And I think that's really important. So
That's awesome. I can resonate with that one.
Yeah.
Hence
Yes.
our Boundary Waters
Yes.
retreat. Yes, yes. So I have a couple. The first one, on a really personal level, every morning I try and implement a gut microbiome support regimen, which is starting with lemon water, and then I have a sporebiotic and a probiotic and a gut microbiome support supplement that I take. And if I start my day with those, the rest of my day goes so much more smoothly. But in terms of kind of a bigger picture hack that I've implemented, it's really been since meeting Thaddeus, who's made a profound impact in my biggest health hack, which may not be an aha health hack here, but in the conventional medicine space, it's huge. So as we talk a lot about circadian biology over this last weekend and any retreat that Thaddeus is part of, I used to pride myself on the fact that I only needed 3 to 4 hours of sleep, and I would be like the best nurse administrator ever because I could work like 20 hours a day. And it's really interesting in healthcare where we honor people who will just be these ridiculous workhorses. Like we pride ourselves on needing no sleep. And I didn't have an appreciation for the impact that was having on my health until I had some personal experiences and more professional experiences. And then I met Thaddeus and started to listen to some of his health hacks that he was talking about, like the blue blockers and the red light therapies. And I started to slowly make some changes. And I am not kidding you. I used to think that I didn't need sleep. And that was actually completely untrue. I needed more sleep than I ever realized. I just didn't know how to sleep. I didn't even know how to make myself fall asleep. I didn't know how to turn off my brain. I didn't know how to turn off my working self and let myself recognize that I needed time to restore and repair. And once I had someone like Thaddeus help teach me how to do those in just really simple ways, it made a huge difference in my health. And I realized that I'm more effective, more present, far more healthy if I actually sleep, which shouldn't seem like such an aha thing. But I'd say for a lot of healthcare professionals, it really is a big win if you learn how to set your circadian biology and how you learn how to sleep and you learn how to restore.
So mine's obviously food. Humor. Wait, no. So I think the biggest thing for individuals like myself or that are struggling from anxiety or depression is seizing the day. And my biggest thing has always been my morning. And how you set your day will set the tone. I make sure that I'm the very first person out of bed. It's not because I want to be the winner at that. It's because that's when I find the most peace. The home is quiet. I can collect my thoughts. I can be actually present with myself. And if I don't get that, there's chaos within my brain. And so everything's like haywire. So I think the biggest hack that I've ever had ever since as a child is getting up. Didn't matter what time I went to bed. It was getting up in the morning because, I don't know, maybe there's something about the light too, but I got to watch the sunrise. I was always deathly afraid of the dark. And but it didn't. If it was a morning darkness, it was different than nighttime darkness. There was so much more peace in the morning. So you've come to my house at 4:30, 4:45, probably find me sitting somewhere in a dark corner, awake, but at my time. So seizing the day and finding some peace.
These answers are so profound, aren't they? I'm just like, oh my gosh, you guys are blowing away. And I think I have a tendency, I don't know if you guys do too, of kind of lifting you guys up, lifting people up who I consider kind of my health heroes up on a pedestal. But the truth is, we all have our frailties and failings. And so I wanted to ask you next, what is your Achilles heel when it comes to living out your best life? Like for me, I'm often shortchanging myself on sleep, just like Christa was saying. So it can't just be past tense like I used to do this. It's like, this is still me now, so that we'll know that you're still works in progress. Why don't we start on the end with the girls over here? Not to put you on the spot.
I'm still thinking.
Gosh, where do I start? A work in progress. My husband could answer this so well. So I do still find myself wanting to sit at the computer until 1 a.m, and I have to remind myself that that's absolutely not acceptable anymore. And even if I'm working late, I make sure I always have my blue blockers on and my red light is close. I still like a lot of carbohydrates, even though I try and limit them. And in all honesty, that was a big part of my 5-day fast, is I kind of just felt like I needed to, I'm kind of an all or nothing person. So I just needed to take almost everything out for a little bit, just to kind of eliminate all of those things that I know don't always make me be my best self. And not that carbohydrates are all bad by any means, but I just am someone where if I have like one bite of something that I really love, I can easily find myself having 20 bites of something I really love. And so I have to be really mindful of that. And moderation is a word that's not really my favorite because it's so subjective and we can kind of make moderation whatever we want it to be. But it's something that I just continue to work on, of how much does this really mean to me, and trying to figure out where I find the most value in whatever I'm doing, whether it's a workout, whether it's, my work-life balance, whether it's carbohydrates, just how much does this mean to me, and really trying to set intention around the time that I spend doing anything and making sure that it's matching the values that I want to exemplify.
All right. So I guess my Achilles heel would be negative self-talk. So I guess, I'll be vulnerable at this moment. Thank you, Hilda. We all have that spinning in our head, and sometimes you get really caught in that, and it's hard to talk yourself out of that, right? And I think looking in the mirror, and when I was talking about earlier about self-improvement and spirituality, they go hand in hand with me. And when I look in the mirror, who do you see, and what are you seeing, and who are you, and what are you going to be that day? And one day, I don't know, maybe that day I want to stay home and cook a meal for my family, and that's okay. And the next day I want to go crush it, I'm an interior designer as well. And next day I want to go just do what I have to do outside the home. And sometimes I get caught in that wheel and I go, oh, I should stay home more. Oh, I should work more, right? And I think as women, that's a really interesting thing. I actually wrote an article. I haven't done anything with it yet, but Katie, Keto Katie and I had talked about that. And sometimes us as women have this thing where we're torn between doing both of those things really well in our modern world. It's pretty challenging. So then I start getting down on myself and I go, oh, I should work more. Oh, I should work more. And then, oh, I should do more for my family. And then now I'm not taking care of myself, right? And I think that, what Nic was saying too, first thing in the morning, and what Thaddeus says, first sunlight, first thing in the morning, you take care of yourself. And I can't really express how important that is. That's my time. And before any of the kids get up, that's where I'm setting everything up for the day. I used to get up, and this fall I would get up at 4 a.m. until 6 a.m. and go work in my shop, because that's when I'm the most creative. So there's something really interesting about that time. And I think you talk about that with your hormones, and there's something, and I think that all leads into like spirituality as well as science. Thaddeus. I digress.
Lots of digression. So I think my answer won't be a popular one, but I choose to live life. And we travel a lot, and I have definitely a relationship with food where I enjoy eating, but for so many years, I would just be so angry at myself for going somewhere and eating cake or something, and I would beat myself down on it. So I've taken the decision to just own it, and I want to live life. So when we're in different cultures, we travel to different places, I choose to enjoy it. I know that I'm not going to feel good, but I still want to experience where I'm at, whether that's beer or cake or whatever it be. I make the decision to know the consequence that I won't feel as good. But kind of like where Heidi said, it's like, if I know that I need to be at my top, then I will make that decision to not eat something that I need to not, if I want to feel good the next few days. And yeah, I mean, just the internet can be cruel, honestly. You know, I get people that judge the living heck out of me. I'll make a post. My wife and I were on a date, and I chose to quote unquote live and not wear blue blockers at a laser light show. And the amount of comments I got of people appalled that I wasn't wearing blue light blockers at a laser light show. And but it's there, right? Or like when I'm on a 2-week vacation and I have a gut and I'm out jumping into glacier lakes and people are like, "You're fat." Like, I get it. I get those comments, and it's like, yeah, but okay, but I'm choosing to live. Like, yeah, I had 6 beers. I've had whatever, but again, I make the conscious decision to own it, or if I don't, I will be more angry at myself. So it has to do with the little things. Again, like, I'm not always wearing blue light blockers. If I'm at a movie at night, again, it's the way I look at it. But I choose to live, and I'll suffer the consequences. I've made the decision, and I'll live with it. So I guess that's where I'm at. Is I'm not perfect ever, and again, there are plenty of times where maybe people view that I should be wearing something or doing something, and I'm not. And just think, all of us, like, we're humans. And if we don't post it, I'd love to sometimes, but the comments I get for random things I'm doing, people judge the heck out of us. But we're human. We really are. We're no different. We're just maybe more vocal and passionate about what we do on social media. But yeah, like, I'm glad you're asking this question, because none of us are perfect in any way.
And it's interesting, because that's why I love following people like you, Todd, because nobody's perfect. I don't want to see that anymore. Like, let's all be done with that, because we're all human and we all have to live life, and it's finding that balance, right? I mean, because at the end of your life, and I've seen a lot of people at the end of their life, nobody's going to say, "I wish I never had that beer with my wife while I was traveling to Cambodia." It just isn't going to happen. So it is that balance between being your best self, living your healthiest life, but being a real human. Like, and that's what we have to be, and that's why I follow you. So I'm sorry you ever get those comments, because I'm going to start commenting more like, you go, Todd. Like, because
you go, girl.
I wanted to say you go, girl, but then I thought that wasn't quite appropriate. But I mean, honestly, I love that, and I hope we see more of that, and we need more of that. And it's for the next generation, but it's for all of us, because we're all humans, we're all struggling, we all have struggles, and nobody needs to see constant perfection all the time.
Yeah, and I appreciate that as well. We're all real people, and I think what people mention to us all the time is that they follow us because we're real, and we tell you what we have learned, and we do our best to walk the talk, but we are not perfect, and we don't try to put out a perfect image to all of you. And no one's called me out on, like, the mixed drinks I had the other day when we were on our 1-year anniversary and other things. So I think I'm glad that I don't get as many of those things, but I agree that none of us are perfect, and all of us try to do the best we can possibly do. And we're teaching you everything we learn to make your lives better and healthier, but nobody is perfect. So I always appreciate seeing those things and seeing the reality of it. So for me, there's 2 things. I'll make them succinct. Time crises. So I am always, like, time scarce. And that's a mental process that's always going on in my head with young kids, a full-time corporate job where I manage a team of people, a full-time business that I run, all my time spent on all the free time that I have when my kids go to bed with podcasting, with article writing, with researching. So I'm constantly in this time scarce mentality. And it really doesn't offer me, when I'm caught up in that wheel, the relaxation and the creativity I need to do my best work for my business, for all of the people that follow my work. So that is something that is my Achilles heel that I'm trying to work on, and pizza.
You made that amazing pizza for us. I don't know what you mean.
Cauliflower pizza.
Okay, yeah, we made cauliflower pizza.
Awesome.
I'm sure Nic would have made it better.
I don't know. That's mean. Everybody probably sees me here kind of being even keel and chilled out, even though when there's like time crunch and a lot of chaos. But I guess my Achilles heel is anger, and it's been something that I grew up in a fuming household. It was loud. Everybody yelled at one another, and a single mother trying to raise 3 kids, and doing the best that she could. And so there was a lot of anger and blame. And that was something that was just woven into my genetics from in utero. And it's not my fault, but it is something that I could change. And so that's my Achilles heel. I find myself getting angry and blowing a gasket on things that I don't need to. But that goes back to this whole thing that is like the scariest biohack is like, I'm trying to figure this out. I'm trying to figure out what it is to be a human. And, walking into it and feeling okay with it. And if it takes me 3 days, I actually keep track of how long I fume about things. And I'm getting down to like 2 or 3 days, where it used to be like 3 years. Like if you did me wrong, I'd hold a grudge, but that's something that I can I'm walking out of. I'm being able to let go. And, thank God anger is a higher vibration than like being sad. But anger was also something that drove me as a professional athlete, and it made me really, really good. So if we treat it, it could be a positive and a negative, and I used it to get me to where I am right now in a positive way, in a health way. Maybe it wasn't very positive at the beginning, but now where I ended up is a lot better. So, I guess don't piss me off or I'll turn into Hulk. No, just kidding. I'm not going to be that green. Maybe that huge. I'm taking primed, but yeah, that's it.
I've only been fired once in the kitchen, so you're doing okay, Nic. But But Hilda, I just wanted to elaborate a little bit on that question, and thank you for asking it, because that's one of the platforms that I want to exist here at The Point. Is we have some of the most leading experts coming here and talking about all of the great science and research and information that they know. But more importantly than that, I want the Point Retreats to be a place where people can come and be a real person. And that expands in every space. And as I've mentioned, we're having groups of doctors coming here this year for continuing medical education retreats. And in all honesty, they need that space the most. We don't allow ourselves as humans to be very real and imperfect often, and doctors rarely, if ever, do. And so I think if I can offer anything here, it's probably first and foremost that when people walk in the door, it's like leave every ego, every title, every self-criticism, every ounce of perfectionism at the door, and try and come in here just as a real human being. And if that's what the Point Retreats accomplishes, that's far more important to me than that anything else that we do here, beyond the science, beyond the research, beyond the experiences. I just want people to be able to come in here and be a real person, a real human, because that's what we all are.
And have you all experienced a taste of that this weekend? Absolutely. So we are going to wrap it up with 2 final questions. I know you guys have been working this weekend, but I was wondering, what Can you describe one moment from the retreat that touched you, or one way in which this retreat has fed you? Okay.
Actually, let me set this down. So after our art project tonight, we had an art project. We did a couple drawings, and then we made a sacred bundle, and then went outside and made this offering. And one of the gentlemen that are here, I won't say any names, but he came up to me and he said, "You know what? Like, thank you. Thank you so much for helping me get into our right." Did you just crack your neck?
I accidentally.
Jesus.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that hurt.
Sorry, I was distracting. I'm like, what?
Yeah, that hurt. Sorry.
The heck? Okay, where was I? He came up to me and he was like, "Thank you so much. Like, I haven't done that in so long. Like, I don't even remember the last time that I drew and I was able to just like sit down and color, and just color and just be free and not have anything to worry about or whatever, and just really get into it." And that's the cool thing about like making art and drawing and being creative, right? Like, it doesn't matter. And like, as an instructor, like, I don't judge anybody. I hope nobody felt any judgment by me today when I was yelling at you. No, I was kidding. When I was being a tyrant instructor, no. But it was really magical in that, and like, that's why I'm here. Like, that's why I want to teach. And if I can inspire one person this whole weekend to like just play more and draw and create, like, yes, that's awesome. And thank you so much for the opportunity to, really do that with everybody. So
one of the coolest moments still of my life was the first time I came to this place. It was just after the Bulletproof Conference of 2017, and we were invited, and it was like, okay, that's cool, Bulletproof Conference stuff, and then coming here, and it was such a new thing, but it was 12 of us, and it was each of us just giving the opportunity to share our passion. There was no real guidelines. It was, hey, this is what I'm going to focus on. I want to teach you guys. And everyone got to share. Everyone got to learn. And just the connection and almost a way more intimate environment of getting to try things. Like here, like a hyperbaric chamber, you could go do it in the middle of the night if you want. You don't get that at conferences. You don't get to sit here with one-on-one with people and have the casualness. And that was just amazing. And this is just the same, if not crazier, that there's this many people, like, that Thaddeus and Christa can come up with this event that people find that are going to be useful enough, that they come from Argentina, that they come from Australia, all the way over here to an event. And like, for me, it's just actually like getting to meet you guys. And why are you here? Like, listening to the people I've gotten to sit down and talk at the table about why are you here in your journey. Like, and I hope you guys understand, like, for me, that's amazing, like, to hear what you guys are, and, like, why you're here. But, like, everyone's journey is so different. Everyone's goal is so different. And getting to learn that and to broaden my experience of knowing what other people are dealing with, and also just other paths that they've taken, for either just to feel normal or to feel optimal. So, this is... You can't compare these to any other kind of conference where there's thousands of people, and you just don't get the connections and the time to talk to people, and the knowledge for sure. It's easy to sit and listen to amazing people like Ben Greenfield or Mark Sisson or Dr. McCullough talk. But when do you get the opportunity to be in the same kind of almost household as people and hearing the same stories? So,
and we were just talking about that. It's indescribable. Like, that's how I would, talk about this place. And really, being here, how would you go back and explain? Like, what did we do?
It's been a problem for me.
Yeah, right? Like, seriously, how do you
even
describe it? Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, what touched me is like the fact that all of you 33 people that are here actually showed up for this crazy idea that we had about, like, hey, let's come to northern Minnesota in the middle of the winter when it's 23 degrees below zero today, and let's go outside, and then we're going to jump in the ice, in the frozen 2.5 foot thick ice on a frozen lake. Like, you all came, And people got in the water today. Almost every single person got in the water. Even if you didn't think you were going to do that, we pressured nobody and you all got in the water. Like, I was amazed that you're all here and you're all so interested in furthering yourselves as humans and walking away with something special that you didn't have before. That is just so important to me. And thank you all for being here.
I was lying awake at like 2 a.m. last night after taking Primed, and I had a very vivid dream. No, like seriously, like, and I don't want to sound like a negative with everything that I've said in the like before or the answers that I've had, but a lot of these things like come from your past, you know, or they're very subconscious. And last night, this like dream that I had and this thought that I had all to do about abandonment and like, why do I have the issues that I have? And it was an epiphany, is actually like, wow, I found a tribe of people. And it was like, holy crap. And I told that car the very first time that we came here or on our way here, I said, this is going to change our life. Just like, wait, the people that we're going to be involved with, this is our tribe. This is, besides like the foragers where I get to get barefoot and dirty, these people are looking to make themselves better, and that's what we're all about. And to actually be able to do that with somebody that you love, and like, you couldn't ask for anything better, you know. And then we bring people along with us, you know. Like, we always struggle to find something of value within ourselves and our families and like what we're on this earth for. And like, sometimes you feel very alone, but in this place I feel very connected. And so it's just been awesome to be here.
Absolutely. Let's give a round of applause for that truth right there. It is powerful, and we want to include those of you who are listening right now in this feeling. And we're not forgetting that not everybody is on this retreat and not everybody is going to go on a retreat like this. So my last question for you all is, what can that person who's listening right now to take a step on this journey of wellness? Like, what would be the first step you might recommend to them? Because we want them to be their best selves as well.
Yeah, I will continue to say this until the day I die. And anybody that's ever asked me to coach them or help them improve their health, I give them one task. And that's the task I would give to everybody listening and everybody here, which is find a way to engineer your life in any way possible to get outside for at least 5 minutes. That is not a lot of time, but 5 minutes within 30 minutes of sunrise. So 30 minutes of the sun coming up, find a way to get outside for 5 minutes. It will change your life.
Yeah, I think you really can't beat Thaddeus's advice there, but I'll give you my second advice would be, as me doing functional nutrition, I get the opportunity to work with sometimes 20 to 30 people a month on just, well, I don't want to say diet, but elimination protocol to create a sustainable way of eating. And it's one of the things that gives me the greatest joy, because I get people who are super sick. They might be 20, they could be 50 or 60, and they don't even know what any kind of ingredients are. And I create this opportunity and environment for them to learn and take control and have the power over what they're reading and choosing what they eat. And it's just, I mean, I almost want to say 100% of the people, they realize just changing their diet and eating more wholesome food, however that looks, changes their whole life. And I think that's one of those, like, of course, yes, like I'm not going to, that's the best thing you can change, overall. But like, for people that can change the food they're consuming on a daily basis, so much more will change. Their emotions will change, their focus, their sleep. Things like that are very feasible. They're tangible for someone to do, and that's I think the first step for a lot of the people that I work with is just changing the way they eat and being aware, mindful.
So I will probably say that beyond light environment and diet is really taking time for yourself and doing the inner work. I think actually all three of those work really well together. Obviously, mind, body, spirit stuff, everybody knows that. But really paying attention to your inner work. I think that's where everything like stems from, and that's where it begins, and that's where it ends at the end of the day, right? Like you're with yourself, and that's the very first thing is like what Thaddeus was talking about, like getting right with yourself, because you can't help other people unless you're right with yourself. You don't love yourself, you can't love your husband, you can't love your children, you can't do any of that stuff. So really taking time in the morning to set your intention for the day, meditate, you know, like us, and be in your positive and bring your best self forward, and then share that with your family. And then I would say also taking your children, if you have children, back to nature. I think that's super important, because that's where we're going to dump all of our EMF stuff and get away from our cell phones. And that's the third thing, is really teaching our young people, our youth, and paying attention and bringing maybe a higher consciousness of where we're at with cell phone use and how it's taking over our lives. I am kind of a rogue substitute teacher, and I go into middle schools and high schools and I teach kids, and I ask them questions like, do you guys pay attention to people in airports? Like, can you find one person that is not on a cell phone? And they're like, yeah, we get this. And I'm like, okay. So just planting seeds with our young people and our youth about, are you going to remember playing this video game? Every male that I've ever interviewed they say yes to, they play video games. And every female, not everyone, I'm sorry, most females say no, which is kind of interesting in itself. But are you going to remember that time? But what are you going to remember? You're going to remember a trip up to the Upper Peninsula, winter camping with your family? Are you going to remember going on a date and being with your loved one and a laser light show without your blue blockers on? Yeah, you're not going to remember being on your phone, right? So I think bringing that, and EMF safety goes hand in hand with that, but really bringing that to the forefront of where our children are at, because it's clearly not a good thing where we're headed with cell phones. And not that they're tools, right? And I think there's a place for them, but paying attention to how much screen time that we're getting, it's really important. So
yeah, all really, really good answers. From my experience of working with a lot of patients and people, I would say we're in a different day and age where our lack of information is not our issue. We have more information than we typically know what to do with or how to implement. So I would say for most people who are looking to make a change in their health and wellness, it's maybe just making a list of like the top 10 things that you've heard that are really intriguing to you, and picking that one thing that you think you can fit into your life at this time. Because I could sit down and say, here's what I would make your priority. But it's not really about me and my priorities. It's about you and what you can be successful at. And that's different for everybody. And I think all of us here in the room have this one or two things that if we do those right, then it's easier to take that second step and that third step and that fourth step. And so figure out what you can do as a first step that will create some success for you and will help you get some energy and get some momentum. And all the things that we've said here and all the things that we've presented and talked about here are really important. But figure out where you're going to have a win and then go from there. And there's so many of them. And maybe for someone, it's going to be just taking that step outside. Maybe for someone else, it's going to be doing, a Whole Foods or a paleo plan or meeting with a coach or less time on the cell phone, and they're all really important, but figure out where you can have a win and then build upon that.
All right. Kind of second that is what I tell all my clients is like we're humans and we operate out of necessity. As a child, that's how I learned how to cook, was necessity. So it would be like obvious that I say, well, fix your food. But what I teach all my clients is pick the low-hanging fruit, whatever that is. It's in your life, you're gonna find something that is necessity, and that's going to make you change, whatever it is. And so, but I always have a little piece of that it sticks with me is Michael Pollan. He's like, this is the culinary aspect. He said, I cooked for him, and in his book, The Omnivore's Dilemmas, he said, eat everything that you want, just make it yourself. Right? So, but that's necessity.
You guys, let's give our panelists and our health coaches a hand. Thank you so much, you guys, for sharing your wisdom, your thoughts, for being so vulnerable. This has been amazing. I think we should end with a big oofda on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Oofda! Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching, you guys. I'm going to join this whole gang again at a retreat in February 2020 at the Point Retreats. I'll put a link below. I think it might be sold out, but if it's not, you're welcome to join us. Also, my trip to Ecuador has a limited capacity for more people to join us, but I would love for you to come. So click on that link if you're interested in exploring, engaging, and experiencing Ecuador in April 2020. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to click on subscribe so you can be a part of this channel and the community that we're growing. Click on the notification bell so you can be alerted every time I upload a new video. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you soon.